Now, we all know when it comes to TV, there's a token character. No matter what race, if a cast is mainly one race, there will be a character specifically designed to try and diversify that cast to appeal more to the audience. In South Park, they had a character named Token Black that was introduced to the show in season 2. The name is obviously a play on the trope of black people being the token character as performative diversity. South Park is known for these adult jokes that in all actuality is very relatable. In season 25 of South Park, writers took a different approach and decided to flip the joke back to the viewers and the characters on the show, who assumed his name was actually Token. It was revealed in episode by the parents that Token's name actually comes from the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit series because the father is a fan of the books. You can say it was a plot twist for the audiences and a dark humor joke that stuck well. Comedy Central even went as far as to go and change the subtitles for every prior South Park episode featuring the character, so that they too now read Tolkien instead of Token. So you guys can definitely understand what I'm saying. But in today's episode of CTV, we're going to be discussing how being the token black girl can suck. Not saying being the token black girl doesn't have its advantages like more opportunities, representation for other people of color, and being able to break barriers so that other black girls can get a chance. All that is great, but its disadvantages can be daunting and can cause the experience to be overwhelming and can create insecurity and self-love issues from being in those environments. For all my black girls, have you ever been in a restaurant, a store, a class, and been the only black girl there? If you have, then you would understand it can be actually very weird and out of place. And you will never know until you're in that situation. And that was the case for the ladies I'm about to discuss. Being the token black girl in the top movie TV franchises and feeling unimportant or just a piece of the pawn is extremely discouraging and simply unkind. The most noticeable issue for audiences would have to be beauty. Networks would hire black actors and not properly accommodate them by having a good beauty team to prep actors for the screen. Monique Samuels, who played the role of Taylor McKessie on High School Musical and the High School Musical reboot show on Disney Plus, briefly discussed her struggles on the set of High School Musical because they weren't able to properly style her hair. In the movies, Monique had a signature look with her headbands she always wore. Her hair was a hot mess compared to her white counterparts. Vanessa and Ashley and the other castmates' hair were always conveniently styled. And then there was the only black girl, Taylor, with her bob. She expressed that the look was created to combat the fact that the on-set stylist would do her hair, but the front would be poorly done, leaving her to fix the issue, and suggest the stylist to incorporate headbands into her on-screen look. Thankfully, this suggestion was accepted without issue, but it was unnecessary for her to even deal with that. Disney is a billion-dollar company, and following the success of the Cheetah Girls, which is a predominantly black cast as to why High School Musical was even made, they could have done better in regards to her character behind the scenes. Now, we all know Boy Meets World as the most popular coming-of-age TV show. It follows Sean and Corey through their adolescent years into adulthood. There wasn't a lot of minority cast members on the show. In season 5, they introduced Trina McGee, who was Sean's love interest. What made her character so well liked is that she was the only black character with a main role, and the show highlighted interracial love between Angela and Sean. Although the writers wanted her on the show, they didn't take initiative to make sure the beauty team could do her hair. McGee stated herself, "I didn't have a hairdresser on set of Boy Meets World. All those little micro braids you see, I stayed up all night doing them right before I went on national television for myself." Now, I know not all my viewers are black, but from a black girl's perspective, do you know how long it takes to do micro braids? I have never had them, and I honestly never will. It's one of the longest braiding styles to do, and the fact that she stayed up to do them before filming the next day is very tiring. So kudos to her. I'm going to give her her own round of applause for that one. And unfortunately, nothing's worse than the Vampire Diaries Kat Graham situation. Kat Graham is a beautiful black woman that got her starring role in the hit CW show The Vampire Diaries. And once again, she was the only lead black character. So Barney's character is the most notable and popular of the series. Kat is stunning, so regardless, she was going to shine through, but her hairstyles on the show was unflattering. According to the things, Kat stated that she would always have to come on set with tight cornrows on because she knew they were going to slap on a wig on her head. And boy, you can tell that's really all they did. Kat's hair on the show always looked misplaced, dry, and looked like they simply didn't care what she looked like coming on screen. And I want y'all to take a second and really imagine what that feels like. just like Taylor McKessie's case. Imagine coming on set getting glammed up, and you see all your white counterparts and the glam team thoroughly taking their time to beautify your castmates, and then when it's your turn, it's crickets. It's lackluster. It's, well, that looks fine to me, and even though you know you look terrible, you have to take matters into your own hands and make do with what you got. Because at the end of the day, when you look good, you feel good, and these ladies did a splendid job nonetheless. Even though they more than likely didn't feel 100% on set, because of Bonnie constantly having to wear those tired-ass wigs, she stated it actually caused a lot of damage to her hair. All the glue and the clip-ins, tugging and pulling at her roots and her edges does take a toll on her natural hair. At one point on the show, Kat did ask the writers if she could rock her natural hair to combat the use of wigs, and needless to say, her idea was shot down immediately without a second thought, which is weird to me. They don't mind Bonnie's character coming on screen with those dry-ass wigs, but she couldn't embrace her natural hair. Being the only black girl on set also. All the other cast was white. They got to wear their natural hair. But what's the difference with Bonnie doing it? It's okay if Nina Dobrev comes on set looking naturally beautiful with her beautiful straight hair, but Kat can't stunningly wear her tight fur curls on set to film. It's a pretty interesting concept to think about. Sometimes I do believe there's a sense of fear on set when it comes to black characters and likability. Black women are undoubtedly beautiful. These writers and producers throw these black women in their shows and movies, but don't give them the range, the story arc, or even proper beauty accommodations so that they could fully shine. It comes from a sense that the black characters will outshine their white counterparts. Bonnie's character was the most liked on the show, and her witch storyline was one of the most compelling that was a missed opportunities on the writer's part. Ian and Kat, even the fans themselves, pitched for Bonnie and Damon to become love interests, but the writers refused. Instead, just to kill off or brutally end every love interest that Bonnie had, basically making her character unworthy of happiness. Even Trina McGee's character Angela was well liked, and her interracial relationship with Shauna was beginning to overpower Corey and Topanga's, and that had to end. Not only do writers and producers leave out the black co-stars to fend for themselves, but they also make them feel unimportant. Monique, who played Taylor for High School Musical, talks about being left out of the third movie's promo tour and how it broke her heart.
Safe to say this, Disney really broke my heart. Because when I got to the third movie, in so many ways, I really championed the film. I really, always spoke so positively. And I was a black girl playing the smartest girl in school, which was a very big deal at that time. And when it came to promoting the third movie, I wasn't invited on the tour. And they said something about there not being enough room on the plane. And they only invited Zach, Vanessa, Ashley, and Corbin, and Lucas and I weren't included. That heartbreak really hit me very deeply and did cause a bit of a depression.
I empathize with her. If I was part of one of the best Disney movies ever made, the movie that gave me my big break, the movie that I put my blood, sweat, and tears in, and the movie I thought I played a vital role in for years, just to not be invited to the promo tour, I also would be devastated. Monique wasn't a supporting character. She was gang. Okay? She is the reason why Zach and Vanessa even got to sing together anyways. She was the best friend to the lead and the girlfriend to the other lead. She was a part of the group pictures, the concerts, all the merchandise. She was the select few that made it on the cover. So why was she not important enough for the press tour? Monique is still humble and grateful for the experience and even came back to High School Musical the series, but it still doesn't deflect the fact that they did her wrong. For Trina, during her run on Boy Meets World, she said the experience was hard for her from time to time, even though she was a new character and was well liked, but seemingly only by the fans, because the writers would do little acts of microaggression to make her feel unimportant. She was the only main cast member to be written off the show one episode before the finale, and needless to say, she was very upset about that. On an episode of Pod Meets World, a podcast hosted by a few of the Boy Meets World leading characters, Trina stated, regarding her finale and the show's finale, I was told in a kind of a weird, offhanded way by a very important person that you guys all went to the showrunner, Michael Jacobs, and you said, we don't want her in the last episode. She's somehow taking our light, was the gist of it. I was told that after I shot what was the show before the last episode, which was called Angel's Ashes, when I left. I was under the impression that y'all got together and did not want me in the last show for some reason. I was gonna take some shine or something to that effect. That was really hurtful to me for a very long time. This confession by Trina was followed by debunks from the old cast there. Trina ultimately believed that they didn't do anything so mean-spirited. I can say though I would understand why she would believe that they did, since she's described before the tension and remarks made on set. But what I don't understand is why someone, maybe the crew, I don't know, cause she never said who told her that, would make something so heinous up. But why was Trina's character written out the second to last episode and not the finale like the other main cast members? I find that awfully weird since she's a vital character to the show. But even years later, during the Girl Meets World, after the show was canceled, conventions were held and Trina was never invited. She stated, "I signed with the same agent and feel completely bamboozled and blocked from the money. Sick games. Was even told the reason I wasn't included was because I wasn't signed to a booking agent. I signed and then crickets get louder. So malice, just point blank truth and real talk." Not only was she excluded from the last episode, but from the final conventions of Girl Meets World. She sees the show as an important part of her life, but she is constantly made to feel like her presence is unwanted, which I can imagine to feel extremely frustrating. Kat Graham's case was a constant disappointment to fans. A lot of Vampire Diaries fandom wanted more insight on Kat's character. The witch storyline was interesting and it played a vital role in the originals being created. To my knowledge, Kat only got one episode dedicated to her, but her story arc was just tragic every season. She was constantly killed and brought back just to sacrifice herself for the other characters and their well-being. Basically a fallback character to save the day. What annoyed me the most is Kat and her grandma's storyline. Right when Bonnie was starting to fully discover her powers, you end up killing her grandma. At one point, doing powerful spells and using her powers were beginning to weaken her, and the writers just joked about this, and they joke about Bonnie's character dying.
When characters are going to leave, you never know when they're going to come back.
Because
and that's been
they die and come back.
Yeah, but that's been
like
a constant. That's been a constant for 6 seasons.
This is the way it's been done, is it?
Bonnie, the reason Bonnie's alive is because Elena's in a coma and vice versa.
Right.
So there's probably a little bit of subconscious resentment going on.
There's some stuff on both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's some resentment, I think, on both sides.
You can clearly see how frustrating this is to Kat and her acceptance for her situation. Kat is a very strong woman, and you can see the writers weren't too fond of her and her character. They wouldn't even give her a Damon and Bonnie love story, even though it's in the books. These types of stories are disheartening and can cause low self-esteem in these women. You're plastered on TV, but behind the scenes you're giving the feeling of being an outcast and unimportant. There's a video of Kat crying at a Brazilian interview from all the love and support the fans were giving her. That video was heartwarming and telling on how the constant microaggressions can get to you. On a further note, a great example of this is Kat's music not being able to be played on the show.
Funny you should ask, because I was just telling him not 30 minutes ago that we are bringing his musical talents to the show.
Boasting about allowing one actor's music to be featured but not another is childish and unnecessary. During Harry makeup, cast member Will Friedle of Boy Meets World told Trina that she looked like Aunt Jemima. Aunt fucking Jemima. Like, are you serious? He later apologized, but the joke was tasteless and I can understand why she was upset with this racial remark. She was even told to turn down her blackness by the showrunner. She stated, "I remember when I was doing Angela Ash's episode and somehow my black meter had slipped up and I was about a 9. Michael came over to me and his note was, 'Hey Trina, just turn down the Thelma Hopkins about 8 notches.'" And it's funny how he said that to her considering she worked on the set of Family Matters. To work in these type of environments, you have to be level-headed. To constantly have to hold your head high and shrug off the disrespect, turn a blind eye, and remain positive or else you will be labeled disrespectful and difficult to work with. Being the token black girl can be difficult, but luckily Hollywood is slowly but surely knocking those barriers down. Unfortunately, these 3 ladies had to deal with it and be mentally strong despite the difficulties they dealt with. They were still able to prosper from the opportunities and happily continue their lives. Well, that concludes this episode of CTV. Thank you so much for tuning in and make sure you like and subscribe. Toodles!